We are a team. As storytellers and dreamers,
there is always magic to discover.
Once upon a time,
a Las Vegas showgirl
and a comedian magician
figured out that even with different perspectives,
our adventures and experiences together
are really just
one big caper.
We thought we would do a fun episode about our differences.
Is that a fun subject?
I think it will be funny.
There's a lot that we do not have in common. I think, first of all, it certainly is the list of things that we do have in common that brought us together.
That was one of the things that I think we both kept saying at the beginning of our relationship was like, God, I'm dating myself.
Well, kind of, yeah.
We said that a lot.
Yeah, we have a lot of similar views and interests and skills and pursuits. I mean, you know, your career in showbiz was vastly different than mine, except for, you know, a couple of years in there during which time we met.
Yes.
But it's been fun, and even though our careers were so different in treatment and practice, there were a lot of similarities, to include the fact that we both started very young. In practice, yours was a formal education, mine was not.
Which is one of our differences.
That is one of our differences.
Yeah.
But I consider that something we have in common more than something that
really
defines the difference.
Well, we'll talk about that because
Okay.
that's towards the end of the list.
Oh, we're going to stay in order on the
we
list.
don't have to.
This is the first time I've looked at the list since we started doing these episodes.
Oh, it's right there for you.
I know. I just
Okay.
There's another difference, is the lists, or the ability to refer to the list, because I make a lot of lists. I just don't look at them. Did I take it out of sequence again?
No.
Oh, good. That's all right.
I mean, it is out of sequence, but I'm okay with that.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay. I'm not as OCD about the lists as you pretend to be.
Well, you just told me that we were to wait till the end to address the other issue.
Yeah, about education.
Okay.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, we'll go in whatever order you would like to, my love.
The first thing on the list is one of the major differences. And the
this is a
last
big
thing
thing.
on the list is in my opinion, one of the major differences. But they're okay. And they're okay for a host of reasons that you'll probably be able to detail a little better than myself. But the first one is the fact that for a number of contributing reasons in my life, I have hoarded stuff. And I said the word hoarded.
Did you see
yes.
how difficult that was for him to admit?
I did.
I
have a lot of stuff. So I have a lot of stuff that I'm a maker. We're both makers.
We're both makers.
So I have a lot of supplies that allow me to continue to entertain that part
fancy,
of my
yes.
Most of that is tools and materials, but I do certainly admit that a lot of materials that I save are things that I've needed for projects over the years that may never get used, and for that matter, I have duplicates of tools because there have been occasions that I've been too far away from my tools and just bought a duplicate, or couldn't find something and bought a duplicate. And as I have been sorting through things over the last year, I've discovered duplicates and I've been getting rid of those things. So it's a continuing process that is reducing my collection. So in addition to that, and I'm going to just keep going to explain myself.
You don't have to justify it.
I know, but in my career as a magician, it seems to be like magicians, it's a stereotype of people who work in that world. The stereotype is that they're major collectors of books and resources and toys and apparatuses and antiques and those kinds of things. So I certainly have collected my fair share of those things, and the things that I use in my work or hope to eventually use in my work, or things that I used to use in my work and no longer use in my work. and I'm trying to pare down that collection as well. I am also, part of my career, I am also of the belief that understanding that things wear out, and if I find something that is functioning or working well, that goes in the costume department or the props department or whatever, I generally buy two. Athena is a minimalist.
So this is the deal. I was raised by pack rats, or hoarders, if you will. Okay. One thing I will say about Felix is that I could have written down collector. Because as he was explaining, he has collections. He has a prop department, a crafts department, a tool department, a costume department. He has all these areas of things. And this is the oxymoron of the whole thing, is that he actually has some OCD. But not for everything, I'm finding. But for me, I was raised by pack rats, okay? I was raised to save every single piece of paper, every piece of artwork, everything, because you might need it again someday. I recently learned that that mindset is a scarcity mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the reason I decided to shift over to minimalism, I'm not 100% there, but compared to this guy, I have zero property. Like the amount of stuff he owns versus how much I own is, I mean, he does have 8 years on me for sure, but
I do.
Yeah. 8 years. But the reason I went towards minimalism is because when I packed an entire shipping container, and I don't remember if it was 20 or 24 feet of stuff, to move all the way across the Pacific Ocean, decide that the island living wasn't for us, and move all of that stuff back over the Pacific Ocean, and the amount of work that was, and the amount of stuff, I was like, I don't even use this. Why do I own it? So that was kind of like my awakening as far as like, okay, it's time to pare down here. So I've been paring down since 2007 when I moved into the house with my ex-husband. And then when Marie Kondo came along, I was like, I love this. So I have KonMari'd. I started a second KonMari this summer to try to minimalize the amount of crap in my closet, for lack of a better word. No, I have a lot of costumes, and I don't have a costume department. I don't have some people have a separate room just for their costumes, and I should have a separate room for my costumes. It is mixed in with my regular
Your costumes are the crown, if you will, of your collection and your passion.
It's really the only thing I collect. I do have a couple of tubs of sentimental items that Marie Kondo talks about that I have not gone through. So I didn't finish the whole process the first time around, and I'm interested in finishing it by the end of 2021. I don't know if that's going to be possible with a lot of things in my life that are happening, but I crave space. Like, I crave spaciousness in my life. That's just
It
me.
is not.
Sorry.
It is not necessarily your influence. I'm sure it's a contributing factor, but I have also been eliminating things. In fact, I told you I recently had opportunity to, for fairly inexpensive, buy a costume piece that used to be worn by one of my heroes in my industry. And I decided I didn't need it. And the truth is, I don't need it. So I'm getting rid of a lot of things. So that's one of the major differences between us.
Before you go.
Before we move on.
I will just say this guy is a Gemini. And if you're a Gemini audience member, Geminis have to have two of everything. It is just part of who they are. There's always has to be a backup plan. So that's just Geminis. So that also is contributing to your collecting habit. That's all.
One of our differences, which is on the last of the list. I'm trying to respect your list.
Okay, so
it's new. I'm respecting your list.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, I talked a little bit about your OCD.
Yes.
Okay, so this is ironic to me because the dude has some serious OCD issues, okay? And I mean, look at the way he's dressed. He keeps adjusting his cuffs. I don't understand why. Just put the damn clothes on and let it do its thing. Did you know you're now
Asymmetric? Yes,
asymmetric?
that's fine. I'm okay with it.
You're okay with
Yeah.
that? Okay. So he'll be OCD about certain things, mostly about the dishes or the kitchen. Everywhere else is fine to be a complete disaster. Art projects everywhere. A pile for a project that's been in process for 6 weeks over there is okay, but the kitchen has to be spotless. There's other OCD things. Me, because of my therapy and being a recovering perfectionist, control freak, etc., I am more free-flowing, and I'm like, I would rather spend my time, my energy, and my attention on things that I really care about. And when I say I crave space, that's why I am a minimalist, because I just need a little bit more space to move around, you know? But if it's messy, and I will clean it whenever I feel like it. So that's the chores aspect. But you do have some OCD and other things, but it's mostly about hygiene and cleanliness and your prop department, your costume departments. I've been in some of those departments, and in my opinion, aren't very well organized because I'm an organizer. Okay, I do have some Virgo. You do too. But the prop department, or sometimes the battery department within the prop department, or wherever it is, it just looks like stuff is just thrown in there. And so I'm like, well, where's your OCD now, sir? So that's the irony of, like, you're OCD sometimes, but not about everything, especially that you are a collector. He has jars this big in the closet of stuff.
Is this the intervention episode?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm just making an example. There's no rhyme or reason to the stuff in there except that they are toys. Old toys. It's not an intervention.
Oh, okay.
I'm
Alright.
just saying.
And if you're
There's
you're
no rhyme or
unsighted,
reason to your OCD.
if you're
is
one of
all
our
I'm
friends who are unsighted, or you're just listening to this podcast, understand that I am nodding my head in agreement with a lot of these things and not just sitting here silently. But so that's definitely one of our major differences, and I concede.
You concede?
Yes.
You're OCD and I'm not.
Oh well, there were two things.
Yeah.
They're almost self-canceling, which is interesting, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Self-canceling. I like it.
Okay.
Okay. Again, this kind of goes into that organization, box, structural structure. I prefer structure. You do not. Despite the fact that you are OCD.
See, that's self-canceling. I think. I don't know.
Okay, well,
let us know what you think.
Yeah, let us know what you
It's
think.
It's not an argument. It's an ongoing kind of thing that we rib each other about. And Marie Kondo is, yeah. We've lost a lot of things since the purges. That it's a mild frustration, but things that we've actually had to replace. But that's a so be it thing.
Yeah. Abundance mindset. We still haven't.
Respecting your list.
Okay, desire for no box versus process-driven way of doing business.
Yes, I function on whim, which I believe I mentioned in a previous episode of this show.
Yep.
But I generally function on whim, and it's one of those things that I realize. If I feel pressured to do something, particularly a creative thing, I have a resentment towards that.
Yep.
And the product does not turn out as well.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you. I worked for 15, how many years? 20? Almost 20 years now as a designer. So I don't have a problem with deadlines. Creativity driven by deadlines. I feel like I need deadlines in order to create. Like it's almost, we have different processes when we create. I need a pressure in order. It's just like to make the diamond. I need that pressure. You don't. It's interesting. But like I have to have a schedule. I have to have this stuff written down. There's no script. I figured it would be best to not script these podcasts. We do have bullets, we have an outline. But I prefer to have everything laid out so that with flexibility, because I am a very flexible person, I don't freak out when it doesn't go my way. I used to, like years ago. But now I'm like, well, that's why I crave space. If you have space in your schedule, you have space in your space, and something goes wrong, you can deal with it. But the way that you approach things is like if you feel like it, you'll do it. But then when does stuff get done?
Things do get done.
I am not saying they don't.
Yeah. It's part of a commitment or policy. Everything I do without an employer, I'm my own boss. And sometimes I want to fire myself. But things can't leave my desk or my workshop until they measure up to a certain standard. And that is more important to me. I value that more than getting things done by a certain amount of time, or within a certain amount of time, or by a certain date and time. I place more value on the quality of the end result.
And I totally hear you. I used to be that as a recovering perfectionist,
It is perfectionism, yes.
Control freak, all of those things. And the reason I don't subscribe to those so much anymore is because analysis paralysis, recognizing you're in it if you're a perfectionist, and then not sharing your gifts with the world because it's not perfect yet. It's never going to be perfect. So if you experience similar feelings from either way, I have tuned into my diva energy and I just get it done. Whether it's perfect or not, it gets done. And then I can move on to the next project because I have so many projects and so many things to share with this world. I don't have time for them to be perfect. That's all. It's just a different archetype. That's all. Yeah.
I'm recognizing that, and I believe that we both expected this out of this particular episode, which interestingly, in contrast to our last episode, which was about passion, we still maintain that passion. These are not new revelations. These are discussions that we've had for a long time.
You just get to be there watching.
We'll have the discussion again for your benefit.
For your benefit. All right. So these next ones are a little smaller. They're just, I think they're just ways of being, really.
Yeah, they're nitpicky,
A couple.
I suppose.
Yeah. You're a night owl.
I am a night owl. I have always been kind of a nocturnal sort. I have early memories of television shows that most people my age don't even remember, because that's when they would play on TV. When there were only 4 choices on the box.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have always been kind of nocturnal, unexplainably. My parents weren't. There was nothing about my lifestyle growing up that would have prompted that. I have never been a morning person. Still not a morning person, of course.
No, you slept in a little today.
Yeah, I didn't even try. But
I know. Yeah, you didn't have your alarm set or nothing.
No, but I did go to sleep much earlier.
No, thanks for respecting the recording time.
I was trying, doing my best. Yes. So
I'm a day walker.
Yeah, you were
I just love the morning.
bushy-tailed first thing in the morning, and
yeah, it's my favorite time of the morning because the world is just getting started, and if you get up early enough, you don't hear the traffic. I mean, we barely hear it here anyway, but you get to hear the life start, and it's just. I think, you know what, now that I think about it, it has to do with me being a Cancer and starting things. like it's a cardinal sign, so we start the season. Right, June.
But your
20th
favorite season is autumn.
is autumn, which is I'm still trying to figure that out. But I like to start stuff like a lot. Like it's, I get these ideas and I get going and getting stuff done. But I think must be why I'm
Interesting.
Yeah, that's my 2 cents. But when I had to be in the show, of course I had to switch to be a nocturnal person, and it was hard at first. But then I found myself, going to bed at 2, 3 a.m. Because, after a show, you don't want to go to bed. You're totally
No, you're
amped.
wound up. Yeah, that's there's a lot of chemical.
Yeah.
More than just
You
a
can't
single
yeah.
chemical, but there's a lot
You
that's
can't
keeping
even,
you going.
yeah, no. So, I think that's just how I've always been. So,
It might even explain why I feel so naturally driven to be an entertainer. Just my preference for
maybe.
nighttime. And the punk rock part of me, and that rebel in me, and that kind of thing. When I was younger, I'm sure kind of caused me to be a night owl and seek out the like-minded people. I ended up working in the nightclub business a lot. I owned a nightclub for a while. I owned an art gallery for a while, and our operating hours wouldn't start until 10. And that was not just my decision. There were 2 other owners, but nobody goes shopping for art before 10 a.m. anyway. But it was about the earliest commitment I could. I've worked graveyards, in certain jobs, whatever I had to do to survive when I was a younger person.
There was that one time 2 years ago when I was driving for Lyft, when I was doing the 3rd shift, and I would start at 11 or 12, 9 p.m. and go to like 5 or 6 in the morning. And the only reason that was helpful was for going to Paris, because I shifted my entire schedule, and then
Maybe
the
that's
jet
why
lag
I didn't have
coming.
so much of a problem going to Paris.
But coming back, ooh, that was
The
painful.
jet lag was rough. Yeah.
It was so painful. So yeah.
Yeah, I both times that I've been to Europe, I didn't have so much of a tough time being there or getting there, but coming back was pretty rough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right.
So, how do you get your butt up in the morning every morning, afternoon, my love?
I let it happen. Sometimes I set an alarm and respect that. Most often when I set an alarm, I wake up before the alarm. So there's some wiring in here that keeps time and wakes me up before the alarm. It happens a lot.
Okay.
But
So
I
when
generally just let it naturally happen, and it usually happens on an 8-hour schedule.
Okay.
Yeah.
8 hours. I need about 9. Yeah.
Usually about 8.
I like sleep. But who doesn't?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's when we heal. Caffeine.
Oh, yeah. I poison my body, and Athena has chosen not to, but...
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because I don't drink alcohol either. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Caffeine's an interesting part of my life. It's as much the ritual of putting it together and that kind of thing that's a habit as consuming it, but it's been maybe something on which I rely too much for a very long time, but caffeine's a buddy.
I do know what time it is. When it's 4 p.m., I hear the microwave warming up his coffee.
I do warm up coffee. I am also the person who might order coffee at the end of a dinner, which is a more than waning tradition. You might not see that in Turkey. They have amazing coffee. It's astounding coffee. It's dangerous coffee, but it comes after the last meal of the day, and that seems contrary to what you would want to do to yourself. But it combats, I guess, maybe part of it is that it combats or compensates for the sleepiness that you get after a big meal.
Perhaps.
I don't know. Anyway,
Stimulants.
I don't respect. I think that my consumption of coffee has resulted in not immunity, but certainly it has less of an effect on me as a drug or a stimulant than it might on a normal person. So if a normal person, an average person who consumes caffeine on an average scale consumes the amount that I drink, it might be uncomfortable.
I agree with that.
I'm just confessing to my addiction. And the addiction, like I said, also has to do with the ritual of putting it together. So I could probably, if I were to cut this out, the most effective way for me would be to replace the ritual with another ritual.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
how you quit smoking. You
Yeah.
smoke cigars first, and then you're so sick of them and grossed out by yourself that you just quit altogether.
Yep.
I told you.
Yep. So that's definitely a difference
Yeah.
between us.
He likes to poison his body. I try to keep mine pretty clean.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm going to do a blog about why I quit drinking
Okay.
eventually, but we might do an episode about it someday.
There are resources out there to learn about us as individuals. And we'll certainly connect you with those resources if you have those curiosities. But things that I do in my career or things that Athena is doing in her career, those are all available as resources within the descriptions of these episodes.
Yep.
Because we're recognizing that we have so much of the list to go through, I believe that we'll make this a two-parter. And the first two-parter in this show.
Yeah.
But it's interesting and hopefully you find it entertaining. But we're doing just fine. But we do have a lot of differences, and I think that's one of the more important things that we have to communicate to people. Because I think that strangers who watch us and see how in love we are might not believe that there are so many differences or things that it's not that we're overcoming, it's not that
We just let them be.
accepting, we're just
Like we said,
just
we're not
are.
responsible for each other's happiness. So,
Right.
and I tell him that when he's huffing in the kitchen because it's not clean.
You do.
Yeah.
And I do.
Yep.
I
Yep.
huff a little bit. Yes.
No guilt.
Yep.
It's not my guilt. You keep it over there.
Yeah.
We can't keep doing this without you. Give us just a little bit of your time by subscribing, sharing, rating, or talking about One Big Caper with someone else. We truly appreciate your support.
We want to hear your stories. Visit onebigcaper.com to get to know us even more.
This episode of One Big Caper was published in 2022. All rights to broadcast in whole or in part are the property of Gazellus Productions, LLC.